All right, what's going on, guys? We are back for our power rankings, this time week 13. So, first of all, I do want to add a little disclaimer in here. I am a little sick. Have a cold, so I'm a little snuffly, sniffling, that kind of stuff. So, I apologize for that in advance, but we're still going to be on the grind here. We're still going to push through, and we're going to get this power ranking show done. So, number 32, we have the Carolina Panthers. They take a really bad loss to the Titans. Frank Reich is officially fired, and typically when a team fires their head coach, they come out the next week firing, then they just play great. And I'm not really sure if that's going to be too much of the case. They are playing the Buccaneers next week. It's a division rival, so it'd be a fun way to maybe get a win there and knock off a division rival during their bad losing streak in the Bucs. But yeah, the Panthers sticking down here, number 32, bad loss to the Titans. Patriots moved down one spot to number 31. They looked absolutely horrible versus the Giants. I mean, the offense was horrible. It was a crapshoot. As the entire, offensive performance for both teams was really pathetic. It was really tough to watch, and rewatching the game, even at that, was like really tough to watch. The horrible QB play. Mac Jones is just much, much, much worse than I thought he would be this year. I think in the beginning of the year, he put up a really good game versus the Eagles. Ever since then, it really has been all downhill since, and, is coaching the issue. There's a lot more going into it than just a quarterback play. You don't have any weapons for him, and thank goodness that not really thank goodness that the defense was able to play, because they played, but that's the only thing keeping them in the games at all. And multiple games this year, I believe the Patriots have allowed their opponents just to 10 points, but they have still lost two out of three of those games. Not good. They lost to the Colts prior to the bye week. You come out and then you lose to the Giants 10-7. It's pathetic. It's bad. It's rough. It's rough. Number 30, you have the Arizona Cardinals. They moved down one spot after getting smoked by the Los Angeles Rams. Just didn't look close. They seemed a little, it's kind of, this team has kind of reminded me of, they're really good in the script, and then they kind of just, the train just falls apart after the script. Is it like some flashbacks to the Cliff Kingsbury days? And I just haven't seen it with Jonathan Gannon in there. Well, at the head coach, he's not really, but he still has the final say in what the play is. So, I mean, this Cardinals team seems to be really good on the script, but once again, they're struggling off script. And then, is a little bit to do with Kyler Murray, play calling. It's got to have a little bit to do with both. But yeah, really bad loss to the Rams, in which it should have been a competitive matchup, in my opinion. It just was not. Number 29, you have the New York Giants moving up two spots after a nice little win versus the Patriots. Nice to see them getting a win, they have a couple wins. They have a couple nice wins in there. I believe they beat the Commanders twice. You beat the Patriots. You beat the Cardinals. So you didn't really beat any really good football teams. But, I mean, the Giants, man, they're not a great football team. They're very predictable. But, one thing I will say, I will give this Giants team prop, is their defense has had a lot of elite play in them lately. They only allowed the Bills to minimal points. They only allowed the Patriots to 7. That defense has been playing really well. Now it's a matter of fact, can they get the offense playing hard? If they get the offense firing next year, obviously it's a little bit too late this year. Don't really have too much to work with. Receivers can't really get separation. They're not really playing well. Offensive line is really bad. So, yeah, the Giants moving up two spots, but their defense has looked really well, and that's a bright spot. That's something to look forward to as a Giants fan. You have a bright future on the defensive side of things, but the offense, you have a long way to go on the offensive side. You need a quarterback. You need receivers. You need a line. They have a bright future. I think coaching is okay. We will see, though, as they get another offseason here to retool that team. I don't really think they should go into a rebuild. I think they have some really nice pieces. They just need to go into a retool, get some guys that can get open, maybe get a quarterback that can make some plays. Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, who's going to New York. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on who you think the Giants should go after in the draft, because they're probably going to have a pretty high pick. All right, next up, the Jets moving down 5 spots. They did not realize that I do have the moving down as green. It should be red, but the Jets do move down 5 spots. They absolutely smoked by the Dolphins and have a chance. It just felt like they lost from the get-go. They lost right from the start. Their defense can only get you so far in today's day and age in the NFL. It doesn't get you very far. This day and age, you much rather have just a really strong offense, a really potent offense, and then have a bad defense. I mean, look at the Chiefs prior to this year when they have one of the best offenses in the league. They've typically have had one of the worst defenses. This year, it's a bit reversed. But when the Chiefs, when the Chiefs or any team has one of the best offenses in the league, they tend to win a lot more games just because that's how the NFL is nowadays. So the Jets moving down by 5 spots to 28, 27. Raiders are staying put. I mean, you got beat really bad by the Chiefs. You had a really nice start. I do think they do have a bright future with Aiden O'Connell. But other than that, I don't really think they have too much there. I mean, the defense has had their fair share of good moments this year, much better than I thought they would be, to be honest with you. And they really didn't start out good. It feels like the defense has had some good games here and there. Now, who have they really played? I mean, they did just play the Chiefs, but you saw what happened. But nonetheless, I think this team is being coached really well right now. I really like the head coach, how he's doing a good job stepping in as an interim. I think maybe he should be interviewed and he should be given the opportunity to coach his team throughout full offseason and instill his own game plans, his own ideas and philosophy and culture, which he is already doing at a very, very high level, doing a very good job with that with this team. I'm not really sure, the age of this team, but they do have some good pieces in place. And that, on the defense, they have Max Crosby. That's kind of what they have. They have other guys that make plays, but other than that, not too much. Number 26, you have the Titans. They move up 2 spots after a nice little win versus the Panthers. Finally getting Derrick Henry going a little bit. Will Levis not really looking good as as the first game he played, but he has looked all right. I've been really fairly impressed with Will Levis, and having that time to sit really played into his favor, really played good, really was a good thing for him. And, having to earn that starting job. Now, I know if you guys got hurt and, all that stuff, Tannehill got hurt, and then he kind of won it over Malik Willis from that point. Nonetheless, it still, made him realize he has to work for it, kind of knocked down his attitude a little bit, it seems. But I really like the way Will Levis has looked. He has looked all right. He's been accurate. He's has good pocket presence, it looks like. There's some things about Will Levis' game that I'm really enjoying, and the Titans might have a bright future with him. We'll see. He's still got a long way to go. He's still young, but they move up 2 spots after a nice little win versus the Panthers. And typical Mike Vrabel outcoaching a Frank Reich team. That's typical. That's being as a Colts fan, I've seen that time and time again. Frank Reich is horrible. Mike Vrabel, I think, is actually a pretty good coach. I've seen a lot of people call him for his job lately. I don't think that's fair. Mike Vrabel has brought this Titans team to very high heights, especially for the talent that they've had in the past. I mean, they've had some really good teams in the past. I'm not saying they're not talented, but, the way the offensive line was for a couple of years there, especially lately, it hasn't been the best. So, considering the way he has them playing, they're still 4-7. I'm kind of surprised why people are calling for his job. I really like Mike Vrabel. I think he's a very good head coach. It's just a matter of fact, it's 1 year where his team just isn't up to par. They're in a retooling year. Just because there's 1 year where the team isn't playing right, you're bound to have down years, and you still got the Titans 4-7. Now they are last in the AFC South, but the AFC South is a little competitive right now. Something that we didn't really expect. But hey, the Titans moving up 2 spots. I still think they have a bright future. Don't call for Mike Vrabel's job yet. Give him a chance. And yeah, that's it for the bottom row of players or teams about the bottom tier, I guess you could call them. Next up. All right, then at number 25, we have the Washington Commanders moving down 3 spots after a really, really bad loss to the Cowboys there. 45-10, it was something like that. Just couldn't get anything going on offense. Couldn't, the defense is one of the worst in the NFL. Very disappointing loss. Don't really expect too much. Maybe I should have moved the Titans up over the Commanders now that I'm looking at it. But it is what it is. Both teams aren't very good. But the Commanders do move down 3 spots after a very embarrassing game on Thanksgiving. Number 24, you have the Bears moving up 1 spot. I mean, that was one of the worst games of the year last night on Monday night. That was one of the worst games ever. One of the worst games of the year. Absolutely. It was very boring. Not really too much going on. But the Bears' defense has been impressive lately. Their offense has been doing all right. Well, not last game, but their offense has shown signs of life. Justin Fields has had some good moments in the last couple of weeks. Not last night. He did not look very good last night. No one really really looked good last night in that game. Everyone really struggled. But moving up 1 spot, you did win. You barely did win. It was a really horrible game to watch, tough game to watch. But you win. You're gonna move up 1 spot. Hey, they've been winning. Their defense has stepped up. Their offense has had good games. And I don't even think they scored a field goal because it was 12-10, right? I don't remember them scoring a touchdown. So, it is what it is. They do win, but they move up 1 spot. I think the Bears have a future. I do. We'll see if Justin Fields is a guy, and even if he is not, They can maybe target a quarterback that can maybe just get the job done. And I think the Bears can be an all right football team. They're going to have to get that offensive line figured out, but I do think the Bears are in a bit better of a spot than a lot of people think. We're 23. The Buccaneers, they moved down 3 spots. Really disappointing loss to the Colts. I really thought that the Bucs matched up well against the Colts, stopping the run. And, even though their defensive rank is not the greatest, I really do think they have a good passing defense. They have a good defense in general. But really, just outcoached. Todd Bowles, is he on his way out the door soon? He might be. Baker Mayfield may be on his way out the door after this year. We'll see. But Mayfield has had some really bright moments this year. Not yesterday, but when they played the Colts, did not look good at all. Blatantly throwing to Ronnie Harrison, one of the Colts defenders, and blatantly throwing interceptions right to guys. And it's not a way you're going to win games. And he's been inconsistent from drive to drive, from game to game. You don't really know what you're going to get from him. But you really just got outplayed by the Colts. The Colts, they should have been able to put the game away earlier than that. They didn't. And, the Bucs were actually looking good the first drive of that game, but they couldn't keep it going. They couldn't keep it going. Like I said, Baker Mayfield and this Bucs team is going to be inconsistent from week to week, from game to game, from literally play to play, drive to drive. That's just the way. That's just the nature of that team. Seahawks moving down a whopping 5 spots. Yeah, they have 6 wins, but I feel like there are some other teams that just should be ahead of them right now. Like, the Seahawks, man, their offense is just horrible. They can't get anything going on offense, and I get it. They play the Niners and play some other really good football teams, but so maybe, I know a lot of people are going to be looking at this and saying that the Seahawks are way too low, and I do understand that to a degree, but I just think that some of these other teams are playing a little better, and that is why I have the Seahawks. I had them move all the way down to 22. They've been, they're on a 2-game losing streak. They got beat up really bad in both games. Well, no, you can't really say they got beat up in the Rams game, but it was a really bad end of that game. You were up by, I think they were up by 2 scores. If not, they were up, and it seemed like they were going to win that football game, but they're horrible on third down. They're horrible in the red zone. They just can't convert. They can't execute, and, even though they have 6 wins, this does not feel like an above 500 team. Like, their defense is awesome. Their defense is great. That's the best part about this team, but, exactly the same thing I was saying about the Jets earlier. You can have great defense, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But, when it comes to this day and age in the NFL, and you can't really play offense consistently, if you can't really get the job done on offense, then you're not really going to do much. You're not going to, even if you start, what are they, 6-5 right now? There's something like that. Like, they're an all right football team. They're not a great football team. So, they're not horrible, but maybe being down here at 22 is a little harsh. I will agree, maybe that is a little harsh, but it's just kind of the way the board fell this week. Very differently, very oddly, it fell this week. So the Seahawks did move down 5 spots. Maybe they could get back on track here. I mean, they do play some really tough teams. They have a really tough schedule. They're playing the Cowboys, the Niners, and then they have the Eagles, and so the next 3 games here are going to be tough for the Seahawks, and they're going to be a true test. We saw versus the Rams, they struggled. They got swept by the Rams. They got completely outplayed by the Niners, and they almost lost to the Commanders. They got blown out by the Ravens, so they lost to 3 out of their last 4. So they're not looking like the football team they did early in the year. It feels like Geno Smith is struggling. Like, it just feels like this offense just isn't clicking. Like there's just something not right about it. Like, they have weapons, they have running backs. I think Geno Smith is a bit of an issue. I think he holds the ball a little too long. I think he's just inconsistent in terms of watching the field. I think the film is out on him in that offense, and I think that's what's catching up with them. But the Seahawks have a great defense. It's one of the best defenses in the league, 100%. And I don't look at rankings. I think the Seahawks have one of the best have one of the best defenses in the league. They really do. They have a ton of talent. They could get pressure on the quarterback, really good coverage. But look at the Jets. Very similar story. But the Seahawks have been able to do a little bit more throughout this season. That's why they're still a little higher. But Seahawks at 22, moving down 5 spots, going ice cold. Or 22, you have the New Orleans Saints moving down 2 spots. Very, very, very disappointing loss to the Falcons there. I mean, you win that game, you separate yourself in that division, you continue to build upon the lead in the separation you already had, but you lose. And I think they fell to 2nd place in the division, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they fell to second place. The Falcons, of course, getting that win. They're, it's not a good look, and it felt like they should have had this game. And it felt like the Saints were moving the ball a bit in this game. They just couldn't execute in the most important moments. They couldn't get it done in the most important moments. That pick six was a big loss, was a big factor in this game. And it's just, I just felt like this is a game that the Saints should win, and they could have won, but they didn't. And Desmond Ridder looked all right. It seemed like the Falcons were getting the run game going on them a little bit. So, and now they're beat up. And this is a game that we could look at down the stretch of the season and be like, yeah, this is the reason why they didn't make the playoffs. Unfortunately, but that's just the way the dice roll sometimes. And the Saints moving down 2 spots after a very, very, very disappointing loss. At number 20, you have the Green Bay Packers moving up 6 spots from 26 to 20. I mean, they've been putting together some pretty impressive performances. They beat 2 pretty good teams 2 weeks in a row here. I mean, they beat the Chargers. Well, you'll see in a little bit, the Chargers aren't very high, but just because their record is not impressive doesn't mean that the Chargers aren't a good football team. I think they're very poorly coached. They don't have a good defense. They have their bright spot. They have their bright moments in defense. Like the run defense is not horrible, and Joey Bosa going down hurts even more. But really, the Packers have 2 impressive wins here in a row. Jordan Love has 2 really impressive performances here in a row. Are the Packers here to stay? Are they going to jump the Vikings? They're probably not going to catch up to the Lions. The Lions are a whole 3 games ahead of them. Remember, they split now. They probably won't win the division, but they might be a team that make the playoffs. They have 2 really good wins under their belts in the last 2 games. So that's why they move up a lot of spots. That's why they move up big time. 6 spots, number 20. I mean, they played pretty good defense against the Lions. They played pretty good defense against the Chargers. Take the Chargers for what you will. Take the Lions for what you will at the moment. But I mean, the Packers, they're getting something going here. They have a 2. Wait, is it a 2-win streak or have they won a little more than 2? Let me check real fast. So yeah, they beat the Lions and the Chargers, and they lost the Steelers, that 3rd week back. But they beat the Rams pretty good a couple weeks ago. So they won 3 out of the last 4. So the Packers are a hot football team. They're winning games lately. They're running the football a little better. It feels like the offensive line was figured out a little bit. Matt LaFleur is being a little more creative. Can they keep it going? We'll see. Pretty big game next week, pretty good game, against the Chiefs. I feel like that's another big stretch. But can this team go on a run down the stretch here? I mean, the schedule is favorable. You play the Giants, you play the Bucs, the Panthers, the Vikings, and the Bears. It's a very favorable schedule, and I have a feeling the Packers might sneak into the playoffs there. Looking pretty good, moving up 6 spots to 20. The Colts, 19, moving up 5 spots. I've been stubborn with the Colts, man. I've been thinking that they deserve to move up this much, but until this last week versus the Bucs, they really impressed me. I mean, it wasn't a good matchup for them, and I don't think the Colts are a great football team. They definitely have their blemishes. They're 6-5, but they're a good football team. They are extremely well coached, and they didn't match up well against the Buccaneers at all. You look at the Buccaneers offense to begin with, and Mike Evans, Chris Godwin going up against gosh knows who in that secondary, very inexperienced Jalen Jones and a few other guys in that secondary that are just very young. Now some of them have been making nice plays here and there, but I mean, a game that's a just tough matchup. The Bucs are good at stopping the run. They play man coverage, they blitz, and that's a weakness for Minshew, and he's not good under pressure. He has those happy feet, and if Minshew can refrain from turning the ball over so much, this Colts team can be a good team down the stretch here. It's just extremely good coaching. That's what's getting them by, and they have some Michael Pittman stepping up. You have Josh Downs. You have some really good pieces on that Colts team, and I think the coaching is just elevating them to a different level. Now, we'll see if they can keep on going. Tough matchup this weekend against Tennessee. They don't match up really well against Tennessee, especially without Grover Stewart, but we'll see. Let's see if this Colts team can continue to keep it rolling. 3-game win streak, so let's see. Number 18, we have the Atlanta Falcons. They get a nice win over the New Orleans Saints to boost them up to number 1 in the NFC South. Desmond Ridder looked like he looked a little better this week. How long will it last? We'll see. Felt like they ran the ball much better than they have been running the ball. So it was a really good outing for the Falcons. I was really impressed with them. Really impressed with some things. I thought the defense played really well. You have Jesse Bates, who was a monster, had the pick six. He knew straight out the gate as soon as the play, as soon as the ball was snapped, he flew across the formation and said, "Nah, that's my ball, that's my touchdown." You have AJ Terrell, Jeff Okudah has been alright. He's had his rough stretches, but you have the defensive line. They got pressure. Great, they have Grady Jarrett, Bud Dupree. They have some really good talent on that defensive line, so they're going to have their quarterback, and we'll see if the Falcons can continue this. What they're doing now too, because they've looked all right. It feels like Bijan Robinson is getting going. You have Drake London making big plays, and like he got going last game. So a lot of pluses, a lot of good things to take away from that divisional matchup against the Saints this weekend. They jump up to number 1. Can they keep it going? Can they win the division? Maybe sneak into the playoffs as the division winners. It'd be pretty interesting to see what they can do in the playoffs, because it feels like they're a quarterback away. The big issue with the Falcons is their coaching. That's kind of my big issue. I don't think Arthur Smith has coached really well. There's a lot of miscommunications, it feels like, on the defense and the offense. That's a coaching issue. Some flags here and there in big moments. Coaching is definitely an issue. Speaking of coaching issues, don't even get me started with this Los Angeles Chargers team. They moved down 2 spots. They get beat up pretty good by the Ravens. It did feel like that they were in that game, and it was a bit of a close game, even though it felt like the Ravens had it most of the game. The Chargers kept it close. They did a very good job. I mean, the Ravens have been killing a lot of teams. They killed the Seahawks, who is a very good defense. They killed the Lions. Take that for what you will now. They have been a very strong football team, and for the Chargers to keep it as close as they did and give themselves a chance to win that game, a couple of moments in that game, and maybe just keep it close and keep them in the game, it's very impressive. But coaching is horrible. Brandon Staley is not very good. Justin Herbert needs some help, man. He can't do everything himself. He has Keenan, who is very good. Quentin Johnson just hasn't been there this year. I'll say the run defense has been good. I've been impressed with the run defense, but really, other than that, I mean, the passing defense isn't really good. But they did impress me last week, versus the Ravens offense. I thought they did a good job versus the Ravens offense for what it was. So, got the Chargers moving down 2 spots. Get them a new coach ready. Come on, and I know. They're not going to get a new coach till the end of the season, because that's just what the Chargers do. They don't fire in the middle of the season. But I think when you have such a talented quarterback, you're not winning now. And Herbert's going through the same thing Philip Rivers did. Crappy coaching, crappy organization. They just, they're always stuck in the mediocrity swing of things, unfortunately. Number 16, the Bengals moved down 5 spots to 16. Without Joe Burrow, it did feel like the Bengals outplayed the Steelers in that game, but obviously they lost. So, couldn't execute in bigger moments. Feels like their passing defense struggled a little bit. Their defense in general struggled a little bit. It did shore up in the red zone, but, Jake Browning is no Joe Burrow. I don't really expect the Bengals to keep on winning, but the Bengals still do have a good football team. They have a good running back. They have some big playmaker receivers, and T. Higgins should be coming back soon if he ends up wanting to come back. The defense has their good spots. They have their bright moments or bad moments, and this weekend was a bad weekend. But they're moving down 5 spots. Number 15, you have the Minnesota Vikings moving down 1. What a crappy game, as I talked about when I talked about the Bears earlier. What a crappy game on Monday night, and it's just crazy how the primetime games have been lately. Going back to last year, the primetime games don't feel like primetime games. It feels like they're just putting any team on that week and saying, hey, at the beginning of the season, you look at the Vikings and the Bears, 2 teams that can maybe be in a playoff race at that time, but, and have some pretty big implications. Now, didn't really. The game was pretty horrible, and it feels like Josh Dobbs is starting to come back down to earth. He's not playing well. Tape is out in the offense with him, and how much can the Vikings really evolve the offense in the middle of the season? Having Josh Dobbs come in the middle of the season, usually it works out for a week or two, but then once other teams get some film on the offense, and you could only evolve so much with the brand new quarterback in the middle of the season, it catches up with you, and it's catching up with the Vikings now. So the Vikings moved down 1 spot. The Bills It's is it a coaching issue too? I mean, like, Josh Allen looked really good in this game. The offense looked good. The defense played good in the first half, but then the second half he looked like crap. Bills, I mean, moving down 2 spots, they just continue to choke games away. They were up 10 points at some point. It looked like the Bills were going to win that football game, but, was coaching an issue? If, it feels like the offense was finally going, but then the defense was inconsistent. Yeah, they're beat up and fine, yeah, but this is a team that should be much better. Now, from now on, they have to win out. They're in win down mode, and, they have a really tough schedule too. So I think we all really understand the Bills, who they are right now. It feels like a really good football team, but, they played a really good game against the Eagles, but they choked, and they had some big mistakes in that game that led to you losing, like that big miscommunication between Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis down the stretch, or Gabriel Davis ran the opposite way that Josh Allen was throwing in the overtime. That would have been a win, but it is what it is. They're moving down 2 spots, and until they can figure out a way to win, they have a tough stretch too. And until they can figure out a way to win, start winning consistently, this is where the Bills are staying. They haven't been consistent. They have had moments where they looked like one of the most dominant teams in the league, but as we all know, they're one of the most inconsistent teams in the NFL. We don't know where we're getting from week to week. We don't know what we're going to get next week or 3 weeks from now or who they're going to be. It is what it is. The Rams move up 3 spots, have a really nice win against the Cardinals. They really blew them out of the water. Really, the Cardinals scored a couple of garbage time touchdowns, but that was really it. I mean, the game wasn't really close. The Rams just dominated. And when they're healthy, that's an explosive offense. And the defense, it's about a middle of the pack, an all right defense. And I'll tell you, man, this Rams offense with Matthew Stafford having some really good weapons, getting Kyren Williams going, it's a lethal offense. It's a really tough offense to go up against and match up against. So how will they continue to play here? They have maybe they have a shot to make the playoffs and they get something going here. So the Rams move up 3 spots after a really nice win against a division rival, which I thought that game would have been much closer, but props to the Rams. They blew them out of the water, did a very good job. Number 12, I think, we had a lot of movement this week. A lot of big-time movement, too. Usually late in the season like this, you don't see a lot of movement like this, but, I mean, the Colts, the Packers, you have the Steelers, you have all these teams moving up so much, and there's a team in the top 10 that moved up a lot as well. So the Steelers moving up 6 spots. It felt like the offense looked better, looked a little more clean. They played some more clean football. Kenny Pickett looked pretty good. I thought he did a very good job. They ran the football well. The defense did what they had to do. They made plays. TJ Watt making plays. Can the Steelers offense continue to evolve and look better? And if they could, I do not see why the Steelers can't make the playoffs. Really good coaching, really good team in general. A lot of big matchups coming on down the stretch of the season here, but the Steelers moving up to 6 spots, number 12. Is it too much? What do you guys think? Let me hear your thoughts on that. But, I mean, they're winning. They're doing a very good job at it, and I feel like they deserve to move up over some of these other teams who've been inconsistent and such. But you can say the Steelers have been inconsistent, but they're 7-4. They're looking pretty good, man. They won 3 out of their last 4 games, and it feels like they're only getting better with, finally getting Matt Canada out of there. Kenny Pickett's getting it going, and you have some decent weapons, Deontay Johnson and George Pickens out there. So Pat Freiermuth had a really nice game as well. Yeah, I expect the Steelers team to continue to win and do what they've been doing. All right, number 11, the Browns moved down 6 spots. Just really, he got beat up pretty bad by the Broncos here. I mean, that never felt close. The Broncos came out firing. It feels like coaching is an issue. I didn't really like the coaching. I thought they were really overthinking it, like, why not run the ball more, trying to get too fancy, and the coaching isn't really good. Of course, Deshaun goes out, that doesn't help. DTR, how is he looking? It hasn't been too good. But yeah, I have not been a fan of the coaching. Not really that good of an outing for the Browns here, moving down 6 spots all the way from 5. Yeah, they were all the way up at 5. They were up pretty high, but you take a loss like that, without your starting quarterback, and we kind of have the feeling who you are. The defense can't really stop the run. Really good passing defense, but yeah, not good. Moving down 6 spots. The Texans moving down 1 spot from 9 to 10. Really disappointing loss. I felt like, they made a lot of mistakes in that game. I see a lot of people pointing their fingers to the refs, and yeah, the refs were really bad. But to be honest with you, the refs are bad for every team in the NFL. Every team gets it, so it's not like the Texans are the only team getting bad calls on them. There were a couple bad calls that went both ways in this game, and I do think that was a catch by Thankyou, but it is what it is, man. They lose, and they're going to move down. They're going to be penalized for it, and also just Stroud looked pretty good. He had some nice plays in that game. They have some, they have good talent. They have blemishes, and I was wrong going to that week about the Texans. I thought the Texans were going to do a very good job against the Jaguars. They did not. And stepping back, looking at it, the Jaguars are a little bit better of a football team. They're a better all-around team, and it felt like the first time around, the Texans did have a lot of injuries too. So it felt like that, the Texans being more healthy, and the Texans were just a better football team since the first time around. I felt like that the Texans would win this one, but I felt like they were the hotter team, but they didn't. The better team won this game, and they're only going to move down one spot because they played a good team, but it really hurts their chances of winning the division. Number 9, Lions moved down 5 spots. It's just like, man, come on, what are you doing? Like, you caught a break against the Bears a week ago, and then you come out the next week, and you lose to the Packers on Thanksgiving. The year you're supposed to be great, the year it seems like you're trying, you're actually getting figured out. You're starting to blow it. You're starting to not look as good. Our teams, all that film is out. It feels like teams are starting to figure them out offensively and defensively. So, and I noticed the teams have been calling more zone coverage against Jared Goff, which that is how you beat him. Don't call man coverage against Jared Goff. Don't. But yeah, teams are starting to figure them out, moving down 5 spots. Very bad loss of the Packers. There felt like that they were going to. Now, the last 2 weeks they are divisional games, right? So that's fair. It's something to take into account there, but still, their defense has been really bad. Their offense has not been very good. It's been inconsistent. Haven't really been running the ball like they have been at the beginning of the season. There's definitely some blemishes and some things to look into this Lions team with and be like, they have some, they have some issues here. I feel like they're not really going to be competing with the best in the NFC this year right now. It's just what they're showing me. Number 8, the Cinderella story. I mean, you could say that about the Lions. You could say that about some other teams, like the Jaguars finally being a good team, like the Texans being a good team. But how about this team, man? How about Sean Payton, Russell Wilson, that run game, that defense? I've said this so much. I don't think I've ever seen a team have a bigger turnaround from the beginning of the season to now. I mean, beginning of the season, 17 points to the Dolphins, 36 to the Commanders. I believe it was like 30 something to the Bears, or 20, in the high 20s for the Bears. Like, the defense was just like looking like one of the absolute worst defenses in the NFL in like history. The defense has shored up. Now, they're still not great against the run. They still, have their struggles. They have their blemishes, but I mean, Russell Wilson's been clutch on the ground, throwing the football. Sean Payton has got this team playing at such a high and great level. It's so impressive to see what this team is doing and what Sean Payton is doing with them. Russell Wilson playing great. Cortland Sutton stepping up, making big plays, and you beat up on a Browns defense. They're pretty good. They're not. If there's a way to beat them, it's to run against them. The Broncos definitely did that. Russell Wilson had a good day throwing the football. This Broncos team is looking really good. They're one of the hottest teams. I would say they are the hottest team in the NFL right now, moving up 5 spots to number 8. Number 7, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Really nice game versus the Texans there, getting the monkey off their back, taking the sole lead and taking the big lead, in the AFC South over the Texans. Good for them. Happy to see it. Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars team, they're finally doing it consistently, man. They're finally. Trevor Lawrence has 2 weeks in a row now where he's looked like an awesome quarterback. He's done a phenomenal job. Can he keep it going? I think he will. It seems like he's playing at a very high level. This team is playing at a very high level. The defense is getting the job done. The offense is doing a very good job. And, a lot of people are going to blame the penalties in that game. I don't care. Every team has bad penalties called against them. The Jaguars, they killed it. Phenomenal job. Jaguars moving up 3 spots. Good job. Number 7. Dolphins move up 2 spots after dominating the Jets. And, the Jets, they were a team in the beginning of the year. That defense was getting the job done. But like I've said multiple times in this power rankings, defense can only get you so far. Now, as I was saying, offense will get you much further. An elite offense will get you much further than a great and elite defense. The Dolphins are a perfect example of that. The Dolphins' offense is getting going. They're doing a good job. Very explosive. Of course, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle too was playing well and put up a lot of points. And really feels like the Dolphins just won this from the start. It feels like the Dolphins should have won by like 50 in this one. To be honest with you, just kind of how the game felt. I think the only score for the Jets was a pick six by Bilal Nichols, I believe it was, and then the end of half, pick six from Javon Holland taking 99 yards. That's something else, man. But the Dolphins moved up 2 spots, looking pretty good. It feels like the offense is, just as good as they were in the beginning of the season. The defense, the defense is improving. This is a legit contender going into the stretch of into the most important stretch of the season. Number 5, the Cowboys moved up 2 spots, absolutely dominating, decimating Sam Howell and the Commanders, as they should have on Thanksgiving. I mean, the Commanders are not a good football team, don't have a good defense, their offensive line is horrible, and there's only so much Sam Howell can do when he's constantly getting hit all day long, not playing well. But, Dallas moved up 2 spots. They beat a team they should beat, and they beat them pretty convincingly, if you ask me. So, Cowboys moving up 2 spots, number 5. And all right, the Niners back in the top 5, back into the top 4, and deservingly so. They've been beaten up by teams. They're back to one of the hotter teams in the NFL. Brock Purdy's playing like he was in the beginning of the season. The Niners looking like a phenomenal team, running the football well, suffocating defense. It's just, it's just what they are. The Seahawks have a really good defense, and Brock Purdy passing their defense like it was no issue. They beat up on they're on 1, 2, 3 game winning streak coming out of the bye. And, it's not an easy schedule to end out the year. They have the Eagles next week, then they play the Seahawks again, they play the Cardinals, then you got the Ravens. So you definitely do have a couple of tough games coming up here, but I mean, you're looking like a really good football team. They're finally playing like they were in the beginning of the season. It feels like they're back to where they were. Injuries, I noticed a lot of people were complaining last week that they were in top 5, and they're complaining, that the injuries held them back. Well, every team has injuries, man, and every team has injury, and with all due respect, I don't, doing power rankings, I can't really take injuries into consideration too much. It's just exactly how the team plays. The team decides where they go, not me. I really don't decide where the team goes. They do. But number 3, Kansas City Chiefs, you beat up on the Raiders team. You were down 14-0. It was really looking worrisome for a little bit there, but the adjustments, getting it going. Patrick Mahomes, Rashid Rice looked really good in this game. They did a phenomenal job. Didn't feel the need to move them up over over these other 2 teams. Ravens at number 2, they beat up on a pretty good Chargers team. The Chargers aren't a great football team. They have good pieces. They are a good team. Down at 17 doesn't say that, but coaching is horrible. The running defense has been better. There's been some things good about that team. The coaching has been absolutely horrible for the Chargers, and Ravens took advantage. They did a very good job. I mean, it was a good game for them. When beating them up on Sunday Night Football, a game that they should win, they did win, and rightfully so. They shouldn't be penalized. They shouldn't be moved out of number 2 for that. Number 1, Philadelphia Eagles, they're getting clutch, man, and, it still feels like they're still leaving some out on the plate, like, playing only a half of football, beating 2 of some of the best teams, in the NFL. Even though the Bills are down at 14, they're one of the most talented teams. They're still a very good football team. They pushed them to the limit, gave them a run for their money. They beat 2 really good football teams, and the Bills and the Chiefs. Big matchup this weekend against the Niners. Really going to be for number 1, I would think. Especially if the Niners go out there, beat them pretty good, and say, you're not coming back against us. It's going to bite you in the butt. Or the Eagles are just going to come out and say, we're not going to continue to let that happen in the first half. We're going to come out, we're going to play very good football, and we're not going to give you a chance to take the lead. But yeah, the Eagles, they've been clutch. I'll be honest with you, Jalen Hurts has looked really good the last 2 games. I thought he's putting together some really good play in the big-time run to win that Bills game. Eagles looking really good. I don't think any other team should be number 1 except for them. So, yeah, guys, that is all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show. I was going to try and get this done fast because I'm not feeling the greatest, but you know what? Once I get into it, I can't stop, and I just figured, screw it, man. You don't feel good. Oh, well, no one cares. They want the same episode. They want good content, so We pushed it through. Sorry if I sound a little congested, little, stuffy, but it is what it is, and I sniffle a little bit. I apologize, but that's it for our NFL Week 13 power rankings. I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is the JDW Sports Talk Show. I will catch you guys next time.